Buon pomeriggio a tutti, grazie per la vostra partecipazione. Io personalmente sono molto emozionato di trovarmi tra persone di cotanto genio e di cotanto senno. Abbiamo ovviamente il presidente di giuria del concorso violinistico internazionale Piccolo Violino Magico, nonché direttore artistico Pavel Vernikov, Sophie Rachlin dall'Austria, un'ottima pianista e didatta, e Sergey Krylov qui con noi, che ci ha raggiunto, anche lui un eccellente violinista e didatta. L'argomento di oggi riguarda la scuola violinistica russa, la grande tradizione del violinismo russo, ma ci allargheremo poi parlando un po' di didattica musicale, riservata in particolar modo ai giovani, come vuole il concorso internazionale, per una sensibilità che guarda non solo all'alto professionismo, ma anche alla considerazione che sono dei giovani, dei giovanissimi, quindi hanno anche delle emotività che è importante tener conto in un lungo percorso anche complesso, che è quello appunto di diventare all'échelle nel mondo mondiale appunto della musica. Non so se è il momento di fare una breve traduzione, visto che abbiamo anche degli ospiti dall'estero.
As Alessio just said, introduce our guests, the president of the jury, Pavel Vernikov, Rachlin, and Krylov, and he just said that before being big artists, very famous artists, they have been students, young students. So we are going to introduce and to understand their past as a student. So let's start with this.
L'intendimento, quando ho pensato a chi erano i componenti della giuria, era quello di avere una breve panoramica su quella che è stata la scuola russa, la grande scuola russa. Da povero studente di violino di scuola italiana, lo dico insomma sempre, vedevo questi mostri sacri della scuola russa. Uno ce l'abbiamo in giuria, Tretiakov ad esempio, Oistrakh, un po' come dei miti per due motivi: uno perché lo erano violinisticamente parlando, e due perché venivano da un mondo che era anche un mondo chiuso, quello della ex Unione Sovietica, e quindi questo caricava ancora di più il mito, no?
What aim Domenico to call this important musician on the stage is to understand better what they have been before. Yes, because in Italy, as a student, he was saying, for him when he was young, Ostrich and even Tretiakov, our member of the jury, they were and they still are very important musicians. So, as again, he was aimed to understand to better what mean and what in verità, no? In real.
Quindi sì, io inizierei con una domanda, prima ai violinisti, che è quella: chi era per voi, per te Pavel, che sei non coetaneo ma di una generazione leggermente successiva rispetto a Viktor Tretiakov, che ripeto, per me insomma era, basta vedere le registrazioni dei suoi concerti da giovane, era un vero e proprio mito. E poi anche per Sergey, cioè la stessa domanda farei anche a Sergey, che è di una generazione, con tutto il rispetto per il caro amico Pavel, ma leggermente successiva, insomma.
Okay, yes. Domenico said that the first that will say about the experience will be Pavel Vernikov, and then Krylov, and it was
asking who was, for example, Viktor Tretiakov for them, because for me, Italian violinist was a big name. And that time, the Soviet Union was
a closed world. And so we knew by name and by some recordings. But I want to know by them that they lived this world. Who was, for example, Viktor Tretiakov?
Во-первых, вам надо было учить итальянский, если вы приехали в машине. I'm very happy, io molto felice vedere tanti partecipanti di concorso che invece di studiare per seconda etapa violino, che dovrebbe essere meglio per loro, vengono a sentire oggi questa conferenza di
Try to translate. My English is not good, but he's saying that he's very happy to see that a lot of candidates are here to listen to this conference about Russian school instead of being to practice in their rooms for tomorrow's round.
Я сказал, что кто не понимает ни на одном языке, что я очень рад, что вы пришли на конференцию вместо того, чтобы заниматься и готовиться на второй этап. Ну окей. It's great mistake before Tretьяков, Oistrach, Krylov и andere great violinists. Great mistake what it have, a Russian school. Is Russian school, for example, Krylov from Moscow is Russian school. I from Odessa is Ukrainian school. Is this Soviet school? Is this a Russian school before revolution with not bad violinists, Heifetz, Milstein, Misha Elman. Adesso this great difference, io parlo inglese, parlo italiano, che è sbagliato di dire scuola russa, questa scuola sovietica, prima aveva scuola russa, che è diverso.
Mi hai bruciato la seconda domanda che volevo farti, che era proprio questa. Per noi era scuola russa, qui si parlava di scuola russa, ma io lo so che c'erano le scuole russe, no? Come giustamente stai dicendo tu.
Allora, you understand what I tell you. Allora, come back from for Tretьяков, parlando di Viktor Tretьяков è leggenda. Quando io ero stato molto giovane, Sergey ancora non nato, penso. Viktor Tretьяков a 18 anni vinto prima premio di concorso Tchaikovsky, che è stato un più importante concorso con Bruxelles al mondo. È stato un mito, è stato una sensazionale violinista, è rimasto molti anni perché non tutti che vincono grandi concorsi rimangono dopo a un certo livello, e lui è rimasto fino adesso, è vivo e con noi qua. Sono onorato che lui è venuto qua.
He said that Tretьяков was and is a big violinist, and just when he was 18, he won the prize, Tchaikovsky prize, and the Tchaikovsky competition. And so it's not normal that you keep playing so at that level and you keep staying on that. So in Tretьяkov's case is the case. I mean, he's still very famous and a big name.
Adesso da Sergey. It's good system. Maybe yes, better, but no must. Bene. Allora facciamo così. Io vi presento prima di tutto Sophie Rachlin, che è una bravissima pianista, ma come seconda professione di lei è mamma di Julian Rachlin.
Come la seconda second work for Sophia, she is the mother of absolutely great violinist. I will talk
ogni anno noi invitiamo qua questa un'idea, a parte grandi violinisti che noi invitiamo a giuria, bene, A parte grandi violinisti, noi invitiamo in giuria. Noi invitiamo anche una mamma.
Yes, in our jury is also present all the time the mother of great
E che veramente
this year
capisce
is
che
Sophia.
Sofia era madre di Vernikov, madre di Julian
Before
Fischer.
there was mother of Vernikov, Fischer.
E noi invitiamo perché io penso che veramente
we invite
loro veramente capiscono, perché loro veramente capiscono, a differenza dei grandi violinisti che c'è in giuria, loro veramente
the
sanno
presence of the
cos'è un
mother in the
bambino.
jury is really very important because they know how it's going and so how the life and many things that just mothers could understand, especially from the part
E
of
allora
musicians.
magari adesso lei, perché vuole parlare già da un'ora prima, adesso dà il microfono a Sofia che
So we
dice
give microphone.
posso dare due.
I want to say that I'm not only mother of Julian Rachlin, I worked about 40 years of my life. I am accompagnator at the great professor, also Russian school, Mr. Kushner. And I was always pianist at this class. And when my son was 9 years old, Mr. Kushner sent us to the master class to Portuguaro. Julian was 9. And so we met great professor, also Pavel Vernikov. And at that time in Portuguaro, it was very, very famous festival and master class. It was also famous professors there, not only Pavel, but also Gilles and many great persons. Also there I met Domenico. At that time you worked together with Pavel, and you took also lessons, I think, as a violinist at Pavel. Also there I met Krylov there. It was unbelievable, very productive time. We spent much time with make music, but I wanted to tell you that it's great when the children start at the so small age to meet not only great teachers but also great personalities, listen to music, chamber music, it's so important. And I'm very thankful that I'm now at your festival, Domenico. Thank you for Mr. Masson and also Vernikov to be here, and that your city and your sponsors continue this tradition for small children, to make new generation. And this is really very, very important because there are so many great talents and we need new generation. So thank you to you. I'm very thankful to be here. And what about Russian school, I think, and you agree with me, that Russian school is school of quality. It's very, very old tradition, but this is school of quality, and you know maybe the best of this.
Yeah, I want to get Sergey not only translated here, but it's paid for speak out. Allora, io from Odessa, sono from Odessa.
I'm from Odessa.
Io ho studiato a scuola.
I was studying in Stolarski school.
Famous school in Odessa.
School.
In Odessa.
Very famous school from Odessa. Yeah, Stolarski school.
Mio professore
And my professor
mi
was.
raccontava che
He said Stolarski to me.
raccontava che lui diceva che è molto importante che i
Very
bambini
important
C'è
that
talento.
children with talent
ma molto più importante la mamma.
But very much more important is not just the talent, but the mother. Mother is the main,
E
most important.
molto dipende di mamma.
Depend of everything is depend
Questa
by
pianista, ma anche mamma Sophie, anche mamma Wenger, anche mamma. E c'è mamma che ha aiutata moltissimo per diventare grandi violinisti.
There is mothers that help a lot to growing up. Just a second, otherwise I will not. Growing up, great musicians, great talents, great artists, violinists.
E c'è mamma purtroppo moltissime che ha fatto moltissimo per uccidere completamente il suo bambino musicalmente.
Talent and musically.
Sì.
Opposite of genius mothers, but there is also opposite mothers. Okay, I'm trying to translate in the best way
Very
possible.
important.
Them.
And for this Stolarski, quando prendeva ragazzo, se lui non piaceva la mamma,
when Stolarski choose the young talent, he analyzed also the mother, and if he didn't like the mother, he didn't want to take the boy or girl.
Adesso prima di dare parole a Sergey,
Before give the word to me,
io devo raccontare un piccolo episodio di Julian Rachlin di
there is a
9
small
anni
episode from the life of Julian
che
Rachlin.
mi ricordata
I remember.
Sofia. Yeah? Lui è arrivato a Portogallo, il great
He arrived to Portugal and
mio amico, il collega, il gran
My
professore Boris Kushnir,
colleague Professor Boris Kushnir
chiesto che io sento
that
lui
I will please listen Sense-Sounds.
Rondo
Rondo Capriccioso.
lavoravano. Allora Julian è venuta con
Julian
questa
comes with
signora giovanissima come
his
adesso, non
mother
cambiata
Sophia
niente.
here present, and
Julian adesso è 42. Allora,
Julian now is 42 years old.
ok, allora, 44, e Julian suonata benissimo.
And Julian
Rondo
played
Capriccioso.
fantastic.
Io per 9 anni non sapevo cosa dire.
And I didn't know what to say to him. He was 9 years old. He was really absolutely incredible.
Piccoli cose così
Small
che
things just to say something
allora
here
io ho
and there.
detto a Julian
And I
tutto
said,
perfetto.
Julian, everything is perfect, but just I imagine what you will say.
Yeah.
No. Yes, sorry.
Ha
No, it
detto-
was just
ha detto
of my
solo
translation.
scritto melancolico,
Melancholico, yes, was sense.
bisogna suonare un pochino più come da lontano.
We need to play
non così.
like from far away, not really present.
No. Allora a 9 anni
So,
Julian mi ha detto
and 9
"No
years
problema,
old, no problem. He
io
said, "Nine."
vado, ja stanno,
Что?
ja stanno.
No, okay, I will. I will go back a little bit, so not so present.
I tell mama, no problem, this great future.
So I think you don't need this translation. So now, in English or in Italian, io posso parlare anche in italiano, in English better, no? Okay, so I don't have to translate anymore your fantastic discussion, and now I will say something about from myself. So about
I forget you, mother.
my mother was in jury also. Yes, right, of course, 2 years ago. In this competition, she's still absolutely amazed about this competition, the company, and the situation, and this beautiful atmosphere of this competition, of course. So what I would like to say about Russian or Soviet or Odessa or our violin school, of course, we can say that when I was 15 years old, something like this, and I remember my international violin competitions for for young people. I remember the presence of foreign violinists, young foreign violinists, on these competitions, and the Soviet violinists. So the difference was that we had the violin school, and then other people know. So other people just play it. So take the bow, oh nice, take the violin take it left side, the right side, and so mostly the problem was that the real method of our, and then later on Tsyganov, of course, Mostras, Oistrach, Kogan, and all these Yankelevich, of course. Yankelevich is teacher of Tretyakov, Spivakov, and Gidon Kremer. So he had two. Gidon Noisner, right? You're right, absolutely. Yankelevich school. I mean, all these great teachers. Of course, all of them have similar method of playing violin. The culture of sound, the way of practicing through the scales, arpeggios, fingersatz, and so all methods that in maybe 30, 40 years ago there was no possible in Europe. Not all the time, of course, not all the time, but mostly the Russian school, the Soviet school was very, very strong in it. So today, for example, coming from Tchaikovsky violin competition, now I was in jury, I can say, I would say that now all violinists there, all of them, they have fantastic school. And they know very well how to play violin, all of them. So we don't have anymore this big, huge, on my point of view, of course it's discussable, we don't have so big different how it was 40 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, you know, when the Soviet Union was, when the Berlin Wall was still there and all this, you know, separation. So now everything is a little bit mixed. It's my opinion. Maybe it's possible. Pavel also, I would like really to ask you, what do you think about that? But I would say that we have now one way, like, you know, I don't know how, we know that this chair is this high like this, because, okay, we say, we understand it's 30, 40 years old maybe, years, we understand that this chair must be like this to be comfortable. So it's the same thing in the right hand, we understood that probably the best sound is coming from that way of playing. We don't have a spatial revolution anymore. So, but for example, Jascha Heifetz in relation to Leopold Auer. Leopold Auer said that he's not my student. He's not my student. He played in a completely different way, and the right hand of Heifetz today. What we could say about him? Pavel, can I ask you this? Что ты думаешь about the right hand of Heifetz, for instance?
Io racconto un altro storia.
Okay, I will. Now I will translate.
Today, Sergey, very seriously, I'm not serious. I tell you that anecdote. No, Sergey ha detto una cosa molto importante. Adesso racconto per Heifetz. Sergey ha detto una cosa molto importante, che niveau molto mischiata, scuola West, scuola Russian, scuola tutta mischiata tra di.
Now today, Pavel said that he agree with me that now schools are mixed.
Io ho fatto 4 concorsi quest'anno.
4 years this.
Montreal, NF,
4 years
Hannover, Berlin.
Jury. 4 different juries.
Qualche volta sembrava che suona sempre lo stessa persona.
And sometimes it was like every person was same person.
E io chiedo,
and I ask,
è sicuro che il livello tecnico è andato.
Today the technical level is going so high. It's already so high and on so high level.
E il livello di emozionale, di duchovnosti.
The musical, the level of interior part of the soul of the musician, intellectual and also the part of the soul, the dushi. Soul of musician comes very, very, very down.
Io penso che questo è molto colpo di professore.
This can be a fault of the teachers, of the professors. I'm trying to do my best in my translation.
Too much competition.
Too many competitions.
Too much YouTube. Too much. I tell this. Я иногда говорю, что
Sometimes I say that today the professor is take very, very talented person,
ma non molto professionale. Non molto professionale. No.
Professor
is
student.
Yes, professor.
Professor very professional, but yeah, but yes.
not very
The
good.
student is not very
Not very
professional.
but very, personality, very emotion. After some year, student come very professional, but no emotion more, no talent. This is very, это очень опасно.
It's very dangerous
Molto pericoloso.
process.
E per Sergey mi era domandata per Heifetz.
Sergey asked about Heifetz right hand
Un
school.
grande violinista, purtroppo morto, Oleg Kagan,
Oleg Kagan, the great violinist,
ha raccontato una cosa
Said
molto
very
interessante.
interesting thing.
Lui studiata da un
He was
grande
studying
professore a
with
Russia,
great with who?
Kuznetsov,
With Kuznetsov.
great theoretic. Lui sapeva ogni muscolo.
He was this
dove
Kuznetsov
deve fare.
teacher, knew about every muscle, every movement, everything about the school,
No,
about
tutti
ballet.
andate via, все уходили.
And
это
everybody was
невозможно.
going out from his class
Very difficult.
because it was very difficult.
Oleg,
Oleg
Together.
remained Kagan, yes.
in one time Oleg domandata, dice, ma
And one time Oleg asked,
sorry, I understand, but it's here, loose, theater. Ma
Heifetz is like this, so but why?
Perché lui suonava così? E Kuznetsov
And
ha
Kuznetsov
detto,
said,
una bellissima domanda questa, bellissima domanda.
Kuznetsov said, this is fantastic question.
Puoi immaginare
Could
come
you imagine-
suonava
Could you imagine how
Heifetz.
played Heifetz
se lui suonava giusto?
if he couldn't play correctly? It's a good school. Yeah.
You understand? Alors, this very philosophic stuff, what correctly not exists in music, correctly not exists in art, correctly not exist. It exists one place so, one place so, one place so, one place so. Exist qualità e per la stessa una
For the
persona
same
c'è
person,
una mano,
We have
per l'altra
one
mano.
way, another way to play.
E noi quando facciamo a fabbrica, se facciamo tutti la stessa
When we
maniera,
make the
succede
fabric, we
tragedia.
have the same way, and this is strategy.
I think che noi dobbiamo dare qualcosa a parlare anche
Prego.
I want to ask something to Sergey, because before you told that Russian school, Soviet school, was first of all method. And I want to ask to you, you know very well Italian school too, or if in Italy there's a school, because you came here when you were very young, okay, in Italy. And why I can understand why in Italy there is no method in studying, because Italian people is like that. But I did not understand why, for example, in Germany there was no method too. And what do you think? Why in Russia, in Soviet Union?
Too much snow, too high wall, too close everything. No, actually, you know, it's, for example, if you could, I don't know honestly, I ask myself many times about that, but I'm sure why, for example, it's not a criticism, absolutely, it's not a criticism, but if you talk about the football, for instance, and you think, why in Italy is so good? We can answer because it's fantastic weather first. So in Russia, for example, there is no so nice good weather. So it's not good condition. In Russia, somehow was creating a condition for this. I remember, and we can also ask Pavel about that. Do you remember years 1975, 80? When in Moscow Conservatorio we saw who? Schnittke. I saw this. Schnittke, Richter, Gilels, Kogan, Oistrakh, because I was too young. But I mean, all of them, Oistrakh not, because he died, if I remember well, in 75, if I remember well.
No.
Or 76.
Yes, he died on the day when my son is born.
So,
And 74.
74, so I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
But I remember this atmosphere and why this atmosphere was created in Moscow, especially in Moscow. We can ask Pavel maybe for it.
It's dangerous, you ask dangerous. For Sophia, Sophia won't tell Julian is not only Russian school.
Yeah.
Julian very mixed, скажи сначала.
Julian studied with Mr. Kushner 15 years, about 15 years, and then it was, he won very, very young, maybe not so important competition, it was Eurovision competition, and at that time maybe, now not so, I think. And afterward he was very natural, boy, 13 and a half, and then with 19 I think, he felt that something, he get here his scares of the stage, maybe it was, I don't know. Anyway, he played at that time 1,000 concerts with Zubin Mehta, with Lorin Mazel and etc. And he asked Zubin Mehta what I have to do. I need a little bit something new on my right hand. And Zubin Mehta told him, go to New York, go to Pinkas Zuckerman. And Pinkas Zuckerman, maybe it's not the greatest teacher. He's fantastic violinist, but as teacher maybe not really so great. But Julian analyzed, of course, of basis of Russian school, because by Mr. Kushner, Julian learned quality of sound. Kushner always said, the one note has beginning, middle, and end. Every note, every sound. This is the Russian school, I think. But he mixed them later, and his right hand now is absolutely mix of Russian and I think it's Galamyan school of Volga-Galamyan was also many years ago also Russian. So anyway, this is true that any mix is good. But what my son is also a teacher, he teach not so much, but he's also a teacher, professor. He was also my chief, Mr. Kushner, and Julian was my chief for competition. But Julian think that very important for all young children and musicians, it's at the right time to start to play chamber music, to listen another person's, to communicate with another, and not only to sing, I'm the greatest soloist, I have to stay in front, yeah. It's amazing important, because when small children are amazing virtuosic, Paganini and company, it's great. But 10 years later, nobody will ask you, can you play Paganini? It would be, everybody will ask you, are you a good musician? And this is maybe the important thing, the development.
Yeah, rispondo per Sergey, domanda di Sergey.
Well, I will answer the Sergey's question.
Prima, io ho studiato 11 anni in Odessa con un professore.
I was studying 11 years in Odessa with one teacher.
Dopo io andato a Mosca.
Then I was going to Moscow.
Speravo a studiare un po' perché ho conosciuto Oistrakh, ho studiato un po'.
And I was studying with Oistrakh.
Lui morto, e ho studiato con un altro professore, Snitkovsky.
And I was studying with Snitkovsky 3 years, and that's all.
More mein collega, un grande violinista, studiato con un professore, o massimo 2 professori.
Yeah.
Adesso.
Today.
Quando vengo a concorso.
When I go
Io ho
to
visto
read, to
biografie.
see and to listen competitors, and we see the biography.
Se io vedo meno di 15 professori,
Minimum 15
allora,
different teachers.
allora significa che lui
It
non
means
fa
that
niente.
he didn't do nothing.
E io,
This competitor.
questo è uno di cose importantissime. Allora io dico, come quando voi andate al dottore,
It's like the doctor. When you go to the doctor,
you go one doctor,
doctor,
he said, look, you must 2 aspirin morning, 2 aspirin evening. Andere doctor, no, aspirin, no, you must operation immediately. Tre doctor dice, no aspirin, you must have a special massage here. Is this young artist now and auch young mother, maybe it's mother problem. She think more doctor.
more doctor we have today. This kind of ideas. More doctor. Worse is the situation.
Perché uno dice così,
One say like this, and probably he's right.
Altro dice
Another
così,
like this.
ha ragione. Altro dice così, ha ragione. Altro dice così,
Everybody
ha
is
ragione.
right somehow.
E dopo bambina
And
non capisce più niente. Questo è one very
Yeah.
important.
And then
Yet,
the children that does not understand
His
anymore.
children, vaccini, children, non deve andare, lui deve avere una come mamma, non cambierà mamma, perché non cambierà mamma? It's the change mama, every 2 years, change mama. What is change professor? Only 6 months. This catastrophe now, is fierce. I speak with Janine Janssen, with my friend, I speak with Julian, I speak, no masterclass, no, after what you 20 years, 25, what you absolutely сложившийся человек.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you possible. I not have masterclass. After I only play with what grade, ask art grade, you go Ricardo, it's different. First. Second, Soviet school, quando noi giovani, noi non avuto niente. Noi non avuto né YouTube, né telephone, né...
Of course. Pavel, could I ask you something? And more probably it will be also interesting for our audience from my part. For example, we are talking about Russian school, all right. But what we are talking about? Technically, of course. So the way of playing, how to take the bow, how to take the left hand, how to put the fingers, how to change positions, the way of listening, the intonation, to understand which is the tonal, which is the altered intonation, how is the sound, how is the how we can change our bowing, for example, how to change them, down, up, right? We are talking about this very, very quickly now. Or we, of course, the beginning of the note, the middle part of the note, the end of the note, vibrato, how to put the vibrato from the one note to the other, etc. Okay, and this. Can we talk at technical school? Yes, of course. Even 2, 3 notes, one to the other, we have this very important technical things to realize. And this is one point. My question is different. Today, how it's possible to teach to young generation the taste of the music? Or better, what is good, what is not, what is permitted, and what is bad taste. Which kind I would say okay, we take for example Bach, for example Ciaccone, and we say, or Adagio if you can in G minor, the Bach first Sol minore sonata, and we say this is good, this is bad, don't do that, do this. This is good, this is not good. How can we today educate the people to say what is white and what is black?
It's very, very good question, very difficult question. Problem for educate good test for baby, no must before educate good test for professor.
Definitely.
It's problem che my professor from Odessa, Moscow, is tell me what I play. It's okay. Of course, it's very important technique to ha detto molte cose giuste, ma ogni volta, ogni tanta, io chiedo mia allievi,
Sometimes I ask my
i miei personali dico, ma per cosa
I ask my students
noi facciamo
for
musica?
what
Per
we are
cosa?
doing the music.
For change ball,
for changing bowling
or maybe for public play music, you know. Alors my professor, sometimes I remember not too much technisch. Odessa school is different in Moscow. Moscow is more precise, more. Odessa is a little not so clear. It's more spiritual, I think. It's not bad fantastic violinist from Moscow and not bad violinist from Odessa. It's Milstein, Ostrach, Mishael, etc. And my professor tell me, Pavel, what you play good, but you must speak with God. You must speak sometimes with God. Now, young, no time for God. She speak with YouTube, with manager, with impresario, and alors you ask test, first test, professor. And voi young, cosa che loro sentono ogni tanto in concerti, noi non possiamo dire niente loro.
So you mean that our generation is somehow changing in musical taste? Is it correct?
Yeah.
So this process is going in a different direction in this moment, and what we would have to learn to teach them is that first of all the difference in between the way of playing Mozart, way of playing Schubert, way of playing Beethoven. Is it?
It's Sophie. Remember, she tell one that I forget tell in Odessa. Very important. I remember 8 years. No play lot of chamber music. No play ensemble violin. In Odessa is no play. 9 years. I play trio, quartet. Is not only for education, but for education person can you not only solist. If what you play with orchestra, you're not solist. You play together. It's two together. Music play together. Partitur. I remember I know what play my friend from here, what play my friend from here. Chamber music. This little forget, but young play only competition, not chamber music. Mine, Domenico and I make this little for two violin, for professor. I director from Tiber Varga competition, have trio, have this, forget this tradition. It's very important. Sophie, please.
I want to say that you ask how it was at our time, 60s, 70s, 80s, that we didn't have YouTube. It was not. But Soviet Union was closed. No telephone. It was closed. And because you ask, what is different? Why in Russia the people, school and everything? I think because the people it was everything closed, and the people was thirsty about art, the theater. Every worker families, from worker family, normal families, every second child played piano, violin, went to the music school, and also the people went always. Theater, it was a holy time. Drama, opera. For example, we talk about Mozart style. Of course, if you listen so many operas, Buffa, Seria, Mozart, Italian, Verdi, all these different styles, so you start to understand all kinds of art, museum, they're all painters. Only with this big, amazing fantasy, you can also, if you have this fantasy, you can create your own art and personality. This is my opinion.
Sophie did today good form, Sophie. And bagaggio culturale, questa è una cosa importantissima. English.
Baggage.
Baggage for culture is
Background.
culture background.
Yes.
I have more students. I have my one student, violinist, first violinist, more students who really not know nothing. It is very, very important, but my professor before give me one piece play is ask me listen opera from Tchaikovsky, quartet from Tchaikovsky. I have student is one from Moldavia, Italian, Papa Moldavia, Italian, I don't know. I ask, is play terrible Bach. Allora I ask Bach from, but so I know it's sure kids know. Bach from, Bach from, I tell from Albany, Turkey. I think I joke, but it's not joke. It's tragic. It's don't know from, and I'm not speak from Penderecki. You know Penderecki from? You know Penderecki?
Yes.
From?
From Poland.
I know, Mama.
From Japan. From
Mama.
Japan.
Is very important. In Odessa, in Moscow, is very important baggage this culture, and is political not correct what I tell now, but little dictator in art necessary. Now too much too free, you change what you live, you change school, you change professor, you change instrument, yeah? After you rest without nothing. I know I go out from Soviet Union, but I must tell que what I'm not working in Soviet Union avec discipline, avec one professor, avec обязательства какие-то, которые у меня были. Обязательства. Доверие. Duties, yeah. Not only now, student come from shop, is tell, please give me lecture for Tchaikovsky, after basta, I pay too, I hope, and out. Before new professor say, God say, every what is tell is, yeah, okay, it's different, it's changed. It's now too much liberté not good, too much dictature not good, and too much liberté not good. Yes. Dobbiamo trovare una cosa. In art, liberté very dangerous. In life must liber, but in art you must, professor must discipline. Yeah.
Pavel, can I ask you something about right hand of the violin?
Okay.
Could I?
Yeah.
Talking really technically about the violin, changing maybe really very deeply and strongly to the another way of discussion, maybe if you permit me, of course. But I'm very, very curious and interested. For example, when you have one small boy comes to you or girl, and you say, you have to hold the bow like that. Which is the first step that you would suggest? How to hold the bow?
Взять.
Как взять?
Я first what I tell, not hold board.
Not hold.
Not hold.
Not hold.
First I tell
But how could you teach?
Is what
first steps?
What you take? No, I not teach 25-year first election for baby. So teach people. But in principle, problem baby first is hold and берут, как сказать?
They take the ball, the children. They take the ball, grab the ball like this.
Yeah, it is very important. It's only 55 gram. This you must bow, hold, violin.
Yeah.
Держит скрипка. Problem. I tell student, what you ask me this? No, but I have student violin, bow, not не рука держит.
Not the hand take the ball, but the violin.
Is this great difference for sound? What you take bow or what you bow?
Or for instance,
But it's more specialist.
Sophie knows much better. She's being fantastic. No, but I have also something to ask.
She change sometimes Kushnir.
Yeah, exactly. But I have another question. If somebody is interested about that, of course, but I'm very interested. For instance, there is two, as I know, but very, very quick, two way of taking bow. First is cosiddetto anello portante in English. I don't know. It's a kind of ring here between these two fingers. And when my first teacher, Vladimir Bronin, he was assistant of Vernikov, give to me the bow, he said, you have to hold it like this. Now I will not explain you, this is quite, it's not so complicated, but anyway. And so the first step is, for me, was to hold the bow in these two fingers and then to distribute. Yes, of course, with a pencil and so. But I knew about other way of taking bow. It's not in two fingers, but in three fingers like this. Taking this finger a little bit up. Which is your school? How you? Because both schools are Russian.
It's very interesting.
Like this,
yeah.
And it's one distribution. Another thing is when you take these three fingers and this going a little bit up. It's also Russian school. So two different way of playing violin.
It's interesting question. I'm not traditional professor, but I think every composer, what you play Mozart, you take one, another, what you play Brahms, you
take another way.
Is this I think problem? The professor can make one school and tell you must. So you not must nothing. You must listen.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, quality sound. You must listen. What student play Frankenstein school. So, but very fantastic sound. They play good. I not take this student.
Of course.
I not. But of course, it's technisch. I personally, I think I change from physics. What is short, what is long, what is good. But I am very interested under question. What you not question? Perché voi dice che domanda?
Perché non state facendo le domande? Why do you not ask us something? But
what
actually,
you want? Mama. Yes, mama.
I just translate.
What you have? What you have? Little question. What no? Maybe you want private lecture with. No, I tell what you have. Se lo faccio un po' di
Se ci sono delle domande, if somebody wants to ask something from from you.
I want only added something. You asked that in Italy it's not the school. I wanted to tell you something. I know Pavel. I know Pavel now. 44 minus 9. I don't know. 35 years. Yeah. And Pavel has so many had so many pupils in Italy, in many towns. And today, I know that in most of the most important orchestras in Italy are still all your students, and it's fantastic quality of violins. This I can answer you about Italy.
Yeah.
Violins.
I wanted to ask me to something to Pavel. You came to Italy a lot of years ago, and you teach in, I think, in the Russian way. What changed this year? Or you teach the same way? I don't think I already know the answer. But what changed in you, in your teaching during these years?
Very, very simple. I more contact with under school, with great artists, and I change I play with Italian virtuosi di Roma, per example, ensemble. Maybe I best violinist in this ensemble, but I'm not best musical in this ensemble. She play more Vivaldi, more musical. I look, tell Pavel, you are very good there, but it's not beautiful. I change. I stole it, and in Russian you see it now change. In Russian not change, only Putin is continue, but under it's change. In changing violinist is Sergey, Russian violinist, Italian violinist. I think it's word violinist. It's change.
I want to add something. Julian told me that he works together with Rostropovich, a famous conductor, famous celloist. And Rostropovich always told to musicians, you have every day your taste, musically taste, to clean the same way like you 2 times a day you clean your teeth, Zubы. So everybody we try to clean our taste and to learn.
Mommy, you must take example from Sophia. She only one professor. Sophia never come with dear professor. No, you know. I think this is very good. She speak only for is good. She only one Yulian. What she have 10 baby. Yeah, no. Yeah, 10 violinist too much. So niveau too much. But I come back in beginning. I think more important the baby family, not mama, okay, but family, atmosphere family, education family, and what you think you baby must play not for career. This is a problem now, catastrophic. Tut won't live good with violin. With violin, life not good. With violin, better petroleum, better mortgage, bank, very good. With lawyer, fantastic. With violin, you must suffer. What you suffer, you great music. After you live good. No. Yeah, sorry.
Parli in italiano o in inglese?
Italiano e inglese, noi non capiamo niente.
No, non so se sono più stranieri qua.
Sì.
Sono più
In
I'll ask you in English. The reason why I'm here is because I'm very curious about that specific fact. I'm not a violinist. When I heard that you were going to discuss about the Russian violin school, I was interested in getting to know how come that the Russian sound is so different from other sounds. I mean this. We're talking mainly of orchestras. The sound that I get from the violin section, the string section of a Russian orchestra is so very different. It's very melancholic. The sound is very mellow. It's not. I would say a very modern sound. It's an intimate sound. When I listen to an American symphony orchestra, the word is so different. And so I would like you to explain to me, if you can, why is it so? Why is it that a Russian orchestra sounds so different, at least in the string section? Or if you wish, what's the difference between a Russian orchestra, a German orchestra, and an American orchestra?
Money.
I know. No, but I'm talking about sound.
Look, is very good question. But it's tradition. The Russian tradition sound, American orchestra play minimum for 5,000 person. Great sound, she must play. And Russian sound, you tell more melancholic, more softer, parce que c'est une tradition. The music, look, Russian music, Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, you know, it's not American, you know.
See, but the Americans play, Rachmaninoff plays.
Different. It's different.
But for example, in America are also different orchestras. I'm very sorry because I'm teaching conducting. I am conductor. And I want to say, for example, Cleveland Orchestra has absolutely another sound as Chicago or New York. So Cleveland is more European sound. It's independent of conductors, of personalities, traditions, who is working with orchestra, with strings section. It's very important. So this is the difference.
It's famous. String section in Russian orchestra is very famous. It's really Mravinsky Orchestra St. Petersburg, unique sound, very historic, unique sound. But it's school, it's different school. It's not only cantata. It's different school, different Russian more, American more. You know, it's different. In this very vulgar, I tell, very primitive, but it's different school. You know, Russian tell ki American to press, American tell ki Russian to.
Better Russian.
I don't know.
Can I maybe also to add some point? This is very, very deep question you mentioned. There is no any kind of real one answer. For instance, for example, Mstislav Rostropovich said that one of the most unique orchestras to conduct for him, it was London Symphony. Why? Because London Symphony Orchestra, for him, was the orchestra that played somehow almost all repertoire from Schubert, Mozart, but maybe Mozart not, because symphony orchestra, okay. But from Shostakovich, Prokofiev, they could play also Haydn and everything, and modern music, and this orchestra was somehow today also absolutely universal somehow, musically. We can take one of the greatest orchestras in the world, that Wiener Philharmonic, that I remember very well, the rehearsal when Rostropovich was conducting with 5th Prokofiev Symphony. And it was difficult. It was difficult on the rehearsal because this orchestra, considering that one of the most incredible orchestras in the world, for them this kind of music was not somehow
Deep,
I don't know the exact word for it. It's not the repertoire that they use to play normally, and they are absolutely incredible orchestra on the top level. So probably the answer to your question about Russian orchestras, I could also suggest somehow this kind of point of view, because of course Russian orchestras with Rachmaninoff symphonies or Tchaikovsky maybe played in St. Petersburg with the tradition of, because you know, I was in the hotel studying concerto Tchaikovsky. I said, what is there written in front of this hotel? It says Tchaikovsky or something written on the house. So, and I was going to the concert and said, here died Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. You know, of course, in this building, in front. So this atmosphere, of course, is totally important in a way of playing of the orchestras, and also conductors, of course. Conductors are amazingly important all together. So, sorry, I just a little bit, ho aggiunto un po' questo pensiero.
Pensa che loro devono andare a studiare per
Sì, sì. I'm really sorry for who was not here today, because personally, I think it was really very interesting. Before coming on this stage, nobody, no one of us knew what to say and what to do here. But what came out was this. I know that when you put a light and there's great artists, something good comes out. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I want to announce finally to Pavel Vernikov that next year, if there will be another Piccolo Violino Magico, there will be another unuseful conference like this.
But I don't know here or maybe Singapore or that, I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.